Howdy everyone, Shadowroo here, and I am your coach of the Sarasota Scissors. Today I have for you the introductory draft analysis, whatever you want to call it, for the Woods Season 7. Now, before we get started, I just want to say, I'm sorry, last season, I know I didn't finish recording the whole thing. We did make playoffs, I didn't make it very far. Long story short, I started my new job and kind of lost all motivation to record much of anything, but we're back now. We got this. We can do this whole thing now. Let's get it. Last season was Season 5, if I'm not mistaken. I took a hiatus off for Season 6, and we are back in a National Dex draft this time. That means pretty much anything from the last generations, as long as it's not crazy overpowered. Also, we are allowing Mega Evolutions. I did not draft one, and we are also allowing Z moves. No, we're not. Just kidding. Z moves are banned, as is Gigantamax and Dynamax. So, we're rocking with a pretty relatively low power level scene. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with us not having Gigantamax and Z moves and all this stuff that we have to build around, so mad respect to Woodsy for not making us have to do that. With that being said, I've stalled long enough. Let's hop right into this draft. So, first things first, I looked at the draft. I had a good pick. I had second. I believe I also had second last season, so that's pretty hype. But I looked at it and I said, last season we made it pretty far, but my team had its shortcomings. Notably, it was really slow, it relied on Trick Room, and it had relatively little offensive presence. It was very passive for the most part. I tried to go for versatility with things like Mew and Silvally, but it just didn't work out the way I intended most of the time. So this time, while I'm trying to keep some of that versatility around, I'm doing it less so in just sheer coverage, more so with the types I represent, and with the amount of things the opponent's just going to have to build around. First things first, I looked at it and I picked up Tapu Koko, nicknamed Kaminari this season. Yes, I'm a weeb. If you didn't know that from last season, you weren't paying attention. So, we have Tapu Koko, a very sought-after Pokemon in a draft league, notably because it's base 130 speed. That's extremely good. There's only a few things that outspeed it, and most of them are not things that can directly threaten me. There's, Reggie Elecki. It's basically a worse Tapu Koko. There's, you get the point. This thing also sets up electric terrain with its ability, which is insane. It means that I can come in, use my base 130 speed to get off a stab terrain-boosted Volt Switch, or U-turn if I'm running it. Don't limit me, you're not my dad. And I can pivot out into any one of my sweepers or a wall or whatever needs to happen. Because if you haven't figured it out by now, I really like pivoting. I really like having strong Volt Turn. I really like Parting Shot. I like the kind of stuff that lets me swap out and still get my little bit of chip damage and scout what my opponent likes to do. From there, Tapu Koko's also rocking a pretty strong 115 base attack, and a less strong but still threatening because of the terrain 95 special attack. I was really hoping this thing would get play rough this generation. I don't know why it didn't. I don't know why Game Freak continues to torture us this way. Although if it did, and if Bulu did, I might have chosen Bulu instead. But here we are. So with Tapu Koko, the idea being, like I said, I can either run it as a setup sweeper and have it be my win condition in my own right, or I can just run it as like a choice specs user or life orb for attacks and just go to town, whittling down my opponent and setting up the terrain. From there, I looked at my team and I figured, I have never used this thing in a draft league format. Let's go ahead and pick up the mascot. So, we've got him. Edward Scissorhands, my all-time favorite Pokemon of all time. Nice going there, Austin. So this thing, as is pretty obvious if you've ever really played Pokemon before, this thing is one of the strongest choice band users in the non-Ubers tier. It's a really strong pivot. It has choice banded stab if you turn. You can also run Bullet Punch for priority, which is boosted by its ability Technician, which is going to probably be the only ability we run with. This is huge. Stab, Technician boosted Bullet Punch with priority takes out a lot of the fairy types that we have to struggle with. It takes out a lot of bulkier rock types, a lot of ice types, and it just lets me come in for nice cleaning revenge kills. That is, of course, unless we're up against Tapu Lele, and knowing me, I will probably forget that when we go up against them. but here we are. Alternatively, you can run Sword Stance against slower teams and set up to beat them down instead of having to run Choice Band and lock yourself in. And like I said, Strong U-Turn, which makes that pivot core just keep on going, and forms a nice core with Tapu Koko with Steel and Fairy, and as you'll see later, that combined with Dragon gives us a very solid core. Not necessarily a defensive one, but one that can be run semi-bulky, mid-range-esque, and cover a lot of types defensively. So next up, you saw that I dropped Tapu Koko, but you can't really have a Tapu without Hawlucha, the best unburdened user pretty much in the game. We're calling him Nacho Libre this season. Do not judge me. I do not care. This thing is a very, very potent late game cleaner. You will come out with Electric Seed on, which immediately activates Unburden and boosts your defensive stats, which I gotta figure out which one it's either defense or special defense. Yeah, it is defense. You boost your defense by 1 stage, and then get up a Sword Stance basically for free if you come in on the right time. Because if you go in against something like a ground type that's choice banded into some Earthquake or whatever, or something that can't kill it in 1 hit, or some kind of wall that is too passive, you get up basically a free Sword Stance and then can go to town. The difference being in this season, Hawlucha gets close combat. That's way better than what it had previously, where you had to basically just pray that you didn't miss a jump kick. Now you have access to a move that has more base power? Is it more base power? No, it is not more base power. However, we trade off about 10 base power for accuracy, which is really, really good. On top of that, you have boosted acrobatics. You have, excuse me, if you wanted to run something like it, if you didn't want to say bring Tapu Koko, you could run Power Sky Attack. You could run Taunt if you feel like it's more necessary. You could honestly run a support Hawlucha. I don't know why you would, but we have the option. You could run things like Taunt, Tailwind, Defog. One thing that you'll notice, and I'll get more on this later, this team is very heavy on hazard removal. We have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spinners / defoggers plus magic bounce. That's pretty solid. You will never get hazards up on me. Don't even try. So yeah, we have Lucha. He's got some pretty good stuff going there. They are not really allowing stat passing, so we can't really baton pass out on like a Sword Stance or anything like that. If I'm not mistaken, let me just verify that real quick. Moves. Oko. Yeah, baton pass is only allowed as a pivot move, so no stats and no substitutes. And on top of that, no moves that aren't available in Gen 8, so no hidden power. Which is part of why Scissor's on my team, because there's no surprise hidden powers to come body me with fire-type move that something shouldn't have. So yeah, Lucha Koko, pretty solid offensive core. If people are going to come up against me, they have to beware of that and make sure they save their Hawlucha checks until late game and make sure they're not whittled down. After that, I figured I wanted to round out my Steel Fairy Dragon core, so I went ahead and grabbed Artemis here, the Latias. Latias is, much like Latios, very versatile. You can run it bulky, or you can run it offensive. The difference being Latias is slightly bulkier, which some people see as worse, but it actually fit better into our point-buy system. So I was able to buy this on top of a lot of my lower end, which means my lower end is a bit stronger than it was last season. And I'm fine with that. I don't need this thing to be super hyper-offensive. We have enough of that. But the thing with Latias, and if I could stop stuttering my way through this, that would be awesome. You can run a number of things. You have Calm Mind to set up on people. Like I said, you can run Choice Specs. You got things like good coverage moves with Surf. You have that really strong Psychic Dragon pairing. You have Healing Wish if you say if Scizor gets burned and you needed to get back up to full and not be burned. That's always an option. You have Baton Pass if you want to go that way. Like I said, no stats passing out, but it is an option. You have Mystical Fire this season, which is really nice steal coverage. That's way better than In Power Fire ever was. And yeah, other than that, you can just be generally annoying with things like Thunderwave. Plus, like I said, it's pretty fast, base 110. So we have pretty good speed control this season, I would say. Way better than last season, although it does make us a little weaker to Trick Room. Again, more on that later. So after that, looking through the draft, I figured getting more pivots would be nice. Setting up a Fire, Water, Grass core would also be nice. And I'm a little not bulky on the physical side, so let's grab some Pokemon that can round that out a little bit. So I grabbed another veteran. We have Hulk Hogan. He's back for round 2. The Incineroar. As you can see, his hidden ability Intimidate plus Parting Shot means that this Pokemon can come in and just be generally super annoying. You can maintain pivots while also crippling the opponent and forcing them to swap. You have, on top of that, things that you can wall break with that nice 115 attack stat with Flare Blitz, Close Combat in this game, Knock Off to remove items, that sort of thing. You get really good coverage in that regard. And not to mention, this thing can also be run bulky. You can run Intimidate with Will-O-Wisp and Parting Shot to cripple a physical attacker, and or you could run an Assault Vest on top of it to make it both physically and especially tanky. Now, I won't say bulky in that regard, it's not a wall, but it serves as a pretty nice tank. And on top of that, like I said, really good pivot. So yeah, I'm really happy I was able to get this thing. I know it was kind of sought after. Is my recording software still going? Yes, it is. We are good there. All right. So after that, I was looking at what was left. I'm like, I've got some weaknesses to a few things. Notably, I have a little bit of issues dealing with ground. Yeah, I have cut 2 immunities, but also 2 weaknesses, and it's only going to get worse as we go on, most likely. Especially since my draft looked a little different originally, but in any case, I figured, alright, what about another water type that can pivot but also can synergize with the terrain? So I went ahead and grabbed Rotom, specifically Rotom Wash, who's named Maytag because honestly they have every appliance under the sun. So with Rotom Wash, you can do, like I said, a multiple of things. You can either run it with Nasty Plot to go off on the opponent with really high special attack, or you can just run it bulky with Defog. This is another Defogger that gets hazards off. Will-O-Wisp, Discharge, things to be just generally obnoxious with, Pain Split, that sort of thing. And it can come in, soak a few hits while we're at it, no pun intended, and we can go from there. Excuse me. So yeah, just a generally versatile Pokemon with a decent stat block. And of course, when I say versatile, I don't mean it like I did last season. I'm referring to their ability to do a number of roles on the team as opposed to just having coverage. Moving on, and this is Showdown's new box feature. Forgive me if I'm not using it correctly, but we're going to have to scroll down from here on out. Bear with me. We've got Alex Jones the Seismitoad, because we don't like the chemicals in the water that turn the freaking frogs gay. So with Seismitoad, I was originally hoping to maybe get like a rain package going, but it turned out to be expensive and also would require railroading the rest of my team, and I didn't really want to do that. But Seismitoad is still a really good Pokemon that I can keep around for sure. He helps with the electric types that would otherwise benefit from my terrain. He's got Water Absorb, so he's a water immunity on top of that. Seismitoad is a rocker. He's the first Stealth Rocks user we drafted, and at this point in the draft, I'm like, okay, I need to get a good rock user. I cannot go another season without a Stealth Rock user. That was a big mistake that I made in one season, and I'm not going to make it again. This thing is generally versatile with the way it can do damage as well, decently physical and special, but not really a sweeper, more of like whatever you need to whittle down the opponent's team the most. You get things like Earth Power, Scald, Knock Off, just general things to, again, be annoying and be a decent tank. Not to mention Toxic, which can help against some bulkier teams to whittle them down a little bit. Obviously, everything here gets Toxic, but Seismitoad probably makes use of it the best. Moving forward, excuse me, Nacho Libre, you already had your time on screen. We have Horus, the Xatu. I was hoping for Claydol, not gonna lie. Claydol would have been really, really nice because it covers a lot of roles. It would have been another rocker, another rapid spinner, another ground immunity, a psychic type to go, even though I already have one, but still, a ground type, which again, I already have, but still, it's versatile, and a trick room setter if I decide to go that way. not necessarily because my team is slow, but because a lot of other teams drafted Trick Room, and having something like that is nice to be able to reset it. You can come in, undo the Trick Room, and then either taunt the opponent or do whatever. I don't know if Claydol gets taunt, but you get the idea. With Xatu here, it covers most of those roles. It's not a rocker, but it does have magic bounce, which is kind of nice and kind of annoying. It means that if I bring it, my opponent has to think twice before setting hazards, and I can, instead of rocking, maybe set my opponent's rocks back on them, set their Toxics, their Will-O-Wisps, that sort of thing. Excuse me. On top of that, if they do manage to get hazards up, I do have Defog to get rid of them again. I have Calm Mind to potentially set up on that. If I did that, I would probably run something similar to how people run Sigilith, where I would just run it with Calm Mind's stored power. Not that I would run that, but just a bulky set like max HP, max defense, something like that. If I don't want to invest in offense, I have Nightshade. I have decent coverage with things like Heat Wave. I have Haze to remove setup sweepers, that sort of thing. I even have access to Teleport, which in this generation, as we all know, got a significant buff. It works as a slow pivot move that you can use to bring out a sweeper. So if the opportunity arises, I can just click Teleport and swap into Scizor, or more likely Hawlucha, or even Incineroar if I wanted to get Intimidate off. The possibilities are endless. Moving forward, we have the beginning of the small, what I like to call mini Hail package. I have Frostmourne here. Yes, that is a World of Warcraft reference. Yes, if you haven't figured it out by now, I am a huge nerd. So, we have Frostmourne, the Alolan Sandslash. It's another Steel type to potentially deal with more fairies, on top of having Slush Rush, which synergizes with our next pick. More on that in just a moment. You can do things like set up a Swords Dance and Sweep, run a Choice Band and Wall Break with that pretty decent 100 attack. Nothing too crazy, but not too bad either. Ice Shard for more priority, that sort of thing. Alternatively, I have Rapid Spin in order to get hazards off the field. I have Spikes and Stealth Rocks in order to get my own hazards up. I have Super Fang if I want to run this thing really bulky. Knock Off to remove items, and and Aurora Veil in order to get screens up. Yes, even more screens. That's what this team definitely needs. But yeah, on top of that, I have just a lot of, I think, for a low tier mon anyway, a lot of things that this one can cover. It can't do that though without our next pick here, Abomasnow. Now this was meant to be Mega Abomasnow, but unfortunately, I got sniped. Literally the round before I was supposed to get it. I'm still balding about that, by the way. You know who you are, and you know what you did. But we will make do. We will move forward. Mine has double the speed of yours, and I can run Scarf to maybe outspeed something slower. I can run Hail Rock to make my hail last longer. So, suck it, I guess. We'll fight for the privileges to Mega Abomasnow at some point. God. I jest, of course, but in reality, Snow Biden, because I don't have the rights to be called the full Abomasnow, so we will deal with his second in command, Mr. Snow Biden. We have the ability to set Aurora Veil, like with Sandslash. We have decent, I don't want to say wall breaking, but we have both mixed physical and special attacks that we can go ahead and cover with. We can run Freeze Dry. Does this thing get Freeze Dry? I actually didn't check. It does not, but that's okay. We can run, we can still run things like Leaf Storm, that sort of thing, or we can just go full physical and run that sort of thing. It even gets Swords Dance, so we can set up with it, although I don't see myself doing that. On top of this, though, I had 1 point left over at this point, and instead of just getting a 6-pointer and swapping out Sandslash, I figured, I kind of want to keep this Hail package. It's just one more thing the opponent has to play around. It's like that dual weather and terrain, which probably would have worked a little better with rain, because then I could spam Thunder Tapu Koko, which would be insane. But we make do. We make do. And you know what? I figured if I have that 1 point, I'm going to spend it on the absolute best mod in the game. So say hello to Equinox, the Lunatone. It's another rock user, it's another screen setter, it's another thing that can undo Trick Room. It's, for a tier 1 mon, it's pretty good. I don't know why this thing was 1 point and Soul Rock was 2, but I'm going to let the people that made the document figure that one out. I'm happy with that this happened, kind of. I like Lunatone for some reason, and I'm happy that my draft turned out the way that it did. So, to reflect, this team synergizes heavily with itself, with pivots and with the terrain, along with the small hail package at the bottom to round things out with screens and potentially sweep with a Alolan Sandslash. We have decent type coverage, but unlike last season, we're not looking to just cover with things like types and move types. We're also looking to fill multiple roles with each Pokemon, something that I think last time we kind of failed at, especially since Silvally, which was supposed to do that, got kind of railroaded into one purpose. And here we are. So, looking at this team, I think we do really, really well with slower offensive teams. I think that we have decent coverage for Trick Room, although it might give us some problems if we don't prepare for it heavily, and if we don't play perfectly. What we do struggle with, however, we do struggle with things that have a lot of coverage. If something comes in with strong grass and fire coverage, that covers a lot of our team, especially our lower teams. And if they have a stab move to go on top of that, oh boy, you're not going to have fun. So I think this team can do some work. We just need to be smart about it. And we can be smart, right? That's arguable. In any case, though, I'm looking forward to this season. Tomorrow, that's November 9th, we have a battle going on with Check's Notes. We have a battle going on with the Blazing Infernape. That's headed by, I should know this, and I don't. Why am I like this? We have, man, I love when I do this. We have, aha, there we are. There we are. There we are. We have Timber. Now he's, I want to say, new to the league. I didn't see him last time when I was competing. He also just did a lot of free agent moves, or rather free agent free moves, because they were within 24 hours of our draft finishing. So he drafted his whole team and then redid half of it from the ground up. So that's kind of fun. I had to kind of fix some of my team that I made for him, but that's okay. It wasn't that many changes anyway. A lot of what he changed out was something that was of a similar typing, but filled a different role, like he swapped Melmetal for Celesteela, that sort of thing. Obstagoon for Weavile. So it's not like we suddenly can't cover his team as well, because we still outspeed Weavile with a lot of our stuff, and Celesteela, while scary, for sure, we can still beat it. We have Incineroar, we have Tapu Koko, we have all those things that can do some work to it, and, excuse me, if he whittles himself down, we even have Hawlucha. So, in any case, I think we are pretty set up for next week, and by next week I mean tomorrow. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this season. It's going to be nice to be back in the saddle again, and that's all from me tonight. I'll catch you all in tomorrow's upload, which I'm going to try something different from that. You'll see what I mean, and yeah. Take care of yourselves, y'all. I will see y'all around later. And, yeah, good luck to everyone in the woods.